Hello, my creepies. I'm Miss Helena Housewife. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be focused on the 5 movies that terrified me the most as a kid. Number 5, Ghosts of Mars. So, Ghosts of Mars was released in 2001 and was directed by John Carpenter. I am definitely a fan. It's a movie that gets a lot of hate. It really is kind of weird and out there. Filmmaking quality kind of wasn't all there. I think it's really cool. It's got Ice Cube and Jason Statham in it. Also has Pam Grier. The storyline is just... So you've got Lieutenant Melanie Ballard that is sent to Mars to transport a criminal by the name of James Desolation Williams. So everybody's been working on making Mars habitable. So whenever they get to where they're going and they realize that there's absolutely no one there, it's a little bit weird. Turns out that the colonists on Mars have unleashed an ancient Martian evil. It's a bunch of spirits going around and possessing everybody. And if you kill the body that's been possessed, the spirit just moves off someplace else. So, if you can look past all of the Martians looking like Marilyn Manson auditioning for a Road Warriors movie, and by the way, on Marilyn Manson, put that out there real quick. It has a lot of campy dialogue, some crazy action sequences, explosions. But it has a couple of really kind of creepy moments and ones that have kind of stuck with me even, into now. The first one is a Martian who had, a colonist who had locked himself up in this like airtight container, and everyone's going up to it and being like, oh, we gotta help get him out. And he's sitting there just like, no, because he's possessed. And he literally just goes, and I might be remiss, but he's just like, and that's it. No. It just really kind of noped me out. The second part that kind of bothered me too, and this is, 2001. I was maybe watching this a couple of years later. So, I was getting, preteen. And I hadn't had a lot of experience with scary movies at this point. But all of the heads lined up on pikes. It's really good. Also something that, would show up in my nightmares. So, yeah. And one of the things, too, and I think a lot of people just kind of look past this, but the fact that these spirits are so relentless, there's no stopping them. They blow all this stuff up, and these spirits are still there. Yeah, it's hopeless. And there's little, preteen Jeanette's awakening to angst and, depression brought on by Ghosts of Mars and a sense of helplessness and hopelessness. Good job, John Carpenter. Number 4 is Darkness Falls. That one was released in 2003 and is a supernatural movie about a lady named Matilda Dixon that was wrongfully killed by the townspeople. She had a habit of giving children gold coins whenever they would lose their baby teeth. She ended up getting disfigured in a fire and started wearing a porcelain mask to hide her, deformities and scars, and would only go out at night. A couple of children from the town happened to go missing. People are already kind of leery of her. They think she's a witch, so their first thought is she's done something to the children. So they tear off her mask and, kind of expose her to the light and then hang her. And what do you know? The children show up and nothing's wrong. So instead of, owning up to the fact that they were terrible people and hanged an eccentric lady, they just kind of go and covered up and they end up being cursed. And so that alone is like just kind of a little bit creepy and everything. The story evolves into a legend in the town of Darkness Falls that whenever you lose your last baby tooth, Matilda Dixon, the tooth fairy, will come into your room and you got to keep your eyes closed because if you see her, she's going to kill you. And that's just the lore. That's not even the actual, you know, the rest of the movie. So you've already got this idea of this lady that's going to kill you if you see her. So that in my little brain was already like... So the rest of the story goes, you know, there's this kid and he sees the tooth fairy. Mom comes in and is trying to tell him there's nothing there. And then mom sees the tooth fairy and they think the kid's crazy. And, you know, that's kind of it. Turns out he's got a childhood friend as he grows up, you know, years later. Has a kid that's having the same problem. Who are you going to call? Except, you know, let's re-traumatize the person that's, you know, never recovered from their mom being killed. So that's just kind of the basic premise. And that movie made me freaked out about the dark. Like, just the visual of Matilda, you know, the tooth fairy, floating around. Her clothes, her robes are just, you know, everywhere. You know, it was really creepy, but it was also like just visually stunning. It was pretty. I mean, if you want to look at it that way. And I could just picture her outside my bedroom door, like kind of pressed up against the wall, floating there, you know, just right in the corners where the light couldn't reach. So I already at that point was sleeping with like my TV on at night. I made a point to stick a nightlight in the bathroom, stick one over near the closet. Like, I was being really kind of ridiculous about it. And yeah, just the visual of, you know, just her in the shadows, just kind of, you know, floating around, being all spooky. Yeah, it's nightmare fuel to me. Number 3 is Boogeyman 2. This one is the sequel to the 2005 movie, and this one came out in 2007. So at this point, it was like the end of my freshman year, start of my junior year in high school. This movie focuses on a girl named Laura that has entered a therapy group to help kind of deal with the trauma of seeing her parents murdered. And she believes the murderer was the boogeyman. So as she's in this group, people start dying one by one based on their phobias. And overall, this one isn't necessarily like the scariest movie ever, but it made me realize that self-harm is like one of my hard limits in horror. Like, if I see people hurting themselves, no, I get like instantly ill. I can watch them hurt each other like, you know, all day long, but the moment that they want to like do something to themselves, nope. So this one has 2 specific deaths that just like bothered the crap out of me. And this may be a little bit of spoiler territory. I don't know if you can still have spoilers on movies that are over 10 years old, but just if you've not seen the movie, just fast forward a little bit, like the next minute or so. So the first death that bothered me was the guy that's the germaphobe, and he is, you know, eating his bag of chips and happens to eat a cockroach. So, you know, he's obviously freaking out. Nobody wants to eat a cockroach. And ingest some heavy-duty cleaner that happens to burn a big ol' hole in his throat. So at that point, I'm just like, you know. The second one that bothered me in there. And if you've seen the movie, you can probably guess what it is. But it's the girl that actually did have issues with self-harm. And she ends up like tied or duct taped to the bed. And maggots are placed inside of her wounds that, you know, she's already inflicted on herself. So, she goes and tries to dig them out and kills herself in the process. So, not only are you dealing with the self-harm aspect there, but also maggots, and it's just, like, I'm getting sick thinking about it right now. But, another death, and this one didn't bother me, I just thought it was really cool. But the girl that had the bulimia issues, and this, it's probably gonna sound awful, but her death was being hooked up to tubes and ingesting like her own bile and things until she just kind of, like, it's completely sickening. I don't think that it does any good things for people with mental illness or eating disorders. But I mean, it honestly, if I can't imagine worse ways to die than based on those kinds of issues. So, good job, Boogeyman 2 directors. Number 2, The Grudge. And I'm going to be very clear about this. This is not the original series, Ju-on. I think I'm saying that right. And it's not any of the, you know, films in that series. It's none of the sequels, you know, to this one. This is the 2004 remake that has Sarah Michelle Gellar in it, being a queen as always. So, most everybody has seen this one. Everyone's got their own opinion on it. But if you've not seen it, the movie is told non-linearly. It kind of jumps around a lot, and it's, you know, the story's timeline. And the focus on the movie is, you know, at its very core, a curse created from when a jealous husband kills his wife, his child, and also the family cat, because, you know, why not? We're in a rage. So it has so much atmosphere. The colors are all really kind of, you know, lots of blues and greens. It's kind of sickening, and it it's not necessarily, there's not like jump scares. It's more, you've got things lurking in the background, you know, kind of showing up where they shouldn't be. And so The Grudge actually was the second scary movie I had ever seen in theaters, and I will tell you about the first one because that happens to come up in my number 1 spot. But my parents took me to go see The Grudge. It was the second scary movie I'd ever seen on the big screen, and I had a fit. I was crying. I wanted to leave, and they would not let me leave. So I was sitting there watching the movie just like, you know, staring at like the back of the seat in front of me. So I got enough of the movie to just scare myself, you know, to death. So we get home after the movie, and my bedroom is in the downstairs of my parents' house. So I've got cartoons on. I'm not getting in the bed because of a certain scene that kind of took the way, you know, just took away all the safety of ever, you know, sleeping in a bed again. You know, can't hide under the sheets because there's things in the sheets with you. So I'm on the floor because I didn't feel like the couch was safe either. Had kept my little sister up with me. I've got cartoons on. And my dad, being the wonderful, amazing parent that he was was hiding at the top of the stairs, and every so often, this went on all freaking night, would, you know, throw something down the stairs and then would make that awful, you know, I don't even want to do it, would make that noise. And so I did not sleep at all that night. And I went on to see the originals, saw the sequels, but I could not make myself watch the 2004 one until I actually moved to Japan and lived in Okinawa. And yeah, for whatever reason, it seemed like a good idea to watch that in Japan, you know, where these spirits live. So yeah. That movie had such a lasting impact on me. Obviously, I went almost 10 years without watching it again. Probably for a solid month. I did not sleep in my bed. I would not take showers. I would wash my hair under, like, the faucet because, you know, afraid, you know, yeah, you know what I mean. And it was probably completely ridiculous, but yeah, I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. And also, this scene, no. Number 1, we have Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So this movie came out in 1994, and I was probably maybe around 2 or 3 at the time. This movie predates Scream by a few years, with that whole like meta slasher thing going on. The movie's really self-aware. It references itself. It brings back all of like your favorite actors portraying themselves. Wes Craven is in there as himself. And the plot of the film kind of follows Heather coming back to reprise her role as Nancy and dealing with her child having trauma with Freddie. And it's kind of weird because it comes out, Wes Craven says that by tapping into, you know, this kind of a fear, they've summoned or trapped an ancient supernatural entity into these films, and he's trying to get out. So Robert Englund is back portraying Freddy. He is also acting as himself, and this Freddy kind of harkens back to the original, the very first Nightmare on Elm Street. He's very dark, he's scary, he's not cracking jokes. He's got a different glove this time around. It's more kind of organic. It's bony and fleshy, almost like it's a part of his, you know, his body. Also has a really killer trench coat. So he's almost kind of like a demonic, you know, thing versus just like this guy that got burned. I first watched this movie probably right around the time when it came out. I was probably 3 years old or so, and the story that my parents have told me is that they had put me to bed and were watching the movie in the living room. At some point during the movie, I got out of bed and hid in the hallway and watched this movie. And after that point, that was the end. I would not sleep in my own bed because Freddy Krueger was going to come out and get me. And I, even up until recently, I have always had nightmares about Freddy Krueger. And due to this, you know, scaring myself as a toddler, I was never allowed to really watch anything scary. So, whenever Freddy vs. Jason comes out, that was the first horror movie that my parents ever took me to see in theaters. And I'm not embarrassed to say it. My dad took me out and I was crying. I was absolutely terrified because there was this thing that had been scaring me since, you know, being a toddler up on the big screen. And yeah, no, was not going to happen. I've completely recovered from that fear, and Nightmare on Elm Street is one of, you know, my favorite franchises now. I actually, it comes in second to Friday the 13th for me. So, yeah. Childhood trauma. Yay! Excellent parenting. Yay! But yeah, that is my top 5 movies that scared me as a child. If you want to see more videos like this one, comment below. Tell me what you'd want to see a top 5 of. Let me know what movies scared you when you were little. Were they things completely different? Did any of the ones that bothered me bother you too? Also, I guess I'll shamelessly self-plug here since it is my own video. You can follow me on Instagram, and I also have a Patreon account where you can get behind-the-scenes looks at my horror hostess show, and also see exclusive photo shoots, things that don't necessarily get posted on Instagram. And yeah, I'll see you next time, creepies.